Hey folks, we're going to continue working on converting Ravnica backgrounds from spell casting to the martial power system for martial characters to have access to the same plethora of options that spellcasters do in the Ravnica setting. So give me a second here to check my signal, then we'll get to work here on a few of these backgrounds today. So mic check, 1, 2, 3. So mic check, 1. Sounds like I'm coming through A-OK. So let me go ahead and boost my signal here for a minute. And bop, 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 bop. There, and there, and there. And then, okay, so if you're here in the future and you've seen my intro spiel before, be welcome to skip ahead a minute or so for us to get into the business of things. And hello, future. For those of you that are here in real time with me, or if you are new to the channel and you don't know really what I got going on here, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 years. There are a slew of links in the description down below of various books that I have previously created, including stuff that you can see here on screen with us right here, right now. These all have extensive previews, so if you were to click into any of these, they would pop open for you to be able to take a look at how the mechanics work. We are currently in the process of, let's get into the, actually, let me go ahead and finish up my intro spiel here, and then we'll talk about what we're doing. I've just posted that I'm active here on my own Discord channel. I've posted in the Ravnica DMs channel here. And let's see, I just posted on Twitter that I'm live at Phil Kearney. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that. If you want to follow me on Discord, here's my Discord channel. I have a Patreon link up and running as well, which will become relevant in a minute. The best way to help support the channel if you want to see more stuff in the future is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when I'm up and running, which I'm live 6 days a week, anywhere from 1 to 3 times per day, depending on what day it is. And then I do a recording to post something pre-planned on Sundays. So I'm here 7 days a week. If you think the Spelljammer stuff that I do, the Eberron adventure stuff, or the martial power stuff, if you think any of that stuff is cool, jump on board and tag along, see what we got going on. So what do we have going on specifically? So if you click on the playtest content and early looks here on my Patreon, you do not need to be a member of my Patreon to participate, though I would certainly love to have your support if you're interested in seeing more work like this produced in the future. Anyone can scroll down here to where it says playtest content for martial powers. If you click on the YouTube stream here, you'll be with me right here, right now. Hey guys. Otherwise, you can click on the Martial Powers link. It'll take you to a read-only document in Google. This is the document that I work on in real time here. So if you want to tag along and read along while we develop and build stuff today, you are most welcome to do so. The Martial Powers system is converting barbarians, fighters, monks, and rogues to a alternate spellcasting system that uses half-casting progression of level 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17, gaining ranks of power 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've converted all of the subclasses to use the Martial Power system. The Martial Power system uses a mana resource that we had first developed in the Color Mana Spell Point variant rules. You can look and learn more about that dropping down here into the DMsGuild. Again, all the books that I have extensive free previews. So if you wanted to drop down here into the core mechanic system and crack open the preview, it'll give you all 75 pages of the initial mechanics. This is all going to get updated for the 2024 when the new rules for characters come out. We're going to update all of these books with the trade dress that I more typically use now, and changing the fonts and the color schemes and stuff, as well as all the language, including Strixhaven along with Ravnica, and include Theros as well, since those are the 3 settings that are now out for Magic the Gathering. But essentially, we create an alternate spell point variant rule system from what's in the DMG. One spell level costs 1 mana. Full caster has up to 80 and can spend up to 10 mana at a time at 19th level. Even though spells cap at 9th level, you can spend up to 10 if you want to upcast spells. Half casters cap at 40, and the Knights and Tricksters, they cap at 20. So when we dive into the martial power system here, we have options for barbarian, fighter, monk, and rogue. We have alternate options, like alternate features and alternate powers to gather instead of spells for paladin and ranger. And there's some exceptions also for artificers and warlocks. So we have all of them built out for use from level 1 to 20. Here's your power scaling. Power dice are like inspiration die or superiority die or martial arts die or psionic die, depending on which system you're comparing it to. It kind of grabs from all of these things, including the Blood Hunter, converts all these things, instead of being feature resources or at will abilities, they're all converted into a scaling rank system from level 1 to 5. You can tap or burn up to 5 mana at 17th level, start with 1 at first. Powers that burn dice, like strike powers or exploits that modify die rolls, they start with a d6. You roll a number of dice equal to the amount of mana that you burn to trigger the ability. It upgrades to a d8 and eventually to a d10. Some subclasses and other features allow you to use a larger die, a d8, d10, d12, based on what character it is that you're using. You can gain a number of powers known, up to 16 at 20th level, starting with 2 at first. Long rest for hybrid points for like artificer, paladin, ranger, and those 3 classes, those half casting classes. They get mana back on a long rest, and they all have cheats that allow them to get more mana throughout the course of the day. Other classes, the martial classes, the barbarian, the fighter, the monk, and the rogue, they use the martial points, including Warlock. Also uses the martial point progression. Warlocks for their pact magic gain up to 20 points, just like a monk gets up to 20 discipline points. We just universalize it all to be called mana. So you burn mana, you gain mana. You can learn all these different powers. At low levels, you have very little mana, but you can also, as we've discussed extensively in the past, and you're welcome to revisit in your own free time here, looking at different powers. There are 209-ish powers that are currently in this book, most of which are coming from different subclass features that already exist, like Battlemaster stuff, Gunslinger stuff, Arcane Archer stuff, Cavalier, Paladin, Ranger, Warlock, Blood Hunter. A lot of this stuff already exists inside of the 5e game. And then we also do some stuff with converting different spell-like abilities or racial class features to grind them all into a unified color mana system so that all 13 classes can use the same color mana system. If you don't like color mana, you can just go with generic universal spell points like Key is for monks currently in 2014, or like spell points are in general with the 8 schools of magic. If you prefer an elemental paradigm, you can check out the Elemental Key, which is the first elemental book that we created for the Way of the Four Elements, using air, earth, fire, and water key, or you can use color magic using red, green, and blue magic. Either way, this is presented as a half casting class with access to 52 disciplines, including a number of cantrips that don't cost any key to use, that scale up as you would expect cantrips to scale up, so that your key character, your monk, is always using some sort of magic effect if you want to, through means of picking cantrips per day to prepare. If you're using elements of air, earth, fire, water, if you're the only airbender in the world, you could mix and match any of the elements that you want to trigger these different effects, such as the Fist of the Four Thunders is Thunder Wave, which uses either air or earth magic. If you were to use color magic, you could use either blue, red, or green magic to trigger these. If you check out some of my other playlists, you'll see that I built the Sun Soul and the Shadow Monk as color classes. The Shadow Monk is black and blue magic, while the Sun Soul is white and red magic, but it has the same scaling motif here of a stack of spell options that you can spend your mana on in addition to all the key stuff that you would normally be able to do, effectively converting each monk subclass into a separate half-casting class unto itself. So you can blend and mix elemental damage types. If you want to use an elemental game, then you can use the martial power system. All of these things can be expressed as, like, say, if you want to be an airbender, and say you pick up the charge exploit here, which costs 1 mana to use. If you're an airbender, then it would be when you take the move action, you can channel this power to prevent triggering opportunity attacks during your movement. The first attack you make during this movement can roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to the result of your attack roll. So if I'm an airbender, I'm using air magic, so I have air key or air mana. I choose to learn the charge feature. I burn a point of air, and then I'm swept through the battlefield, not drawing an attack of opportunity. And when I hit my target, I would deal additional damage. Monks happen to use the martial arts die instead of the power die. Monks scale up to a D12. We're going to see that in 2024, and you also see that in this this book that we came out with. Let's scroll down to the back end where we're seeing class modifications. Yep, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12 is my progression. I think we're going to see in 2024, we're going to see D6, D8, D10, D12. Either way, you're going to end up ahead as a monk, ahead of what the power dice are in the end. Monks just naturally scale better. There you go. That's a cool reason to be a monk, because they have better power scaling. There you go. So there are 210-ish, 209 features, 150-ish of them require mana, but about 60 of them don't require any mana at all, as sort of martial cantrips, if you would, which is a combination of combat masteries, and thanks for Wizards of the Coast for taking the idea of combat masteries and making them into weapon masteries. Weapon masteries in 2024, anyone can use them as long as you pick up the weapon. If you're using a hammer, you can push somebody by hitting them and then make a saving throw where they get pushed 5 feet. Combat masteries allow you just to know how to use these techniques. These are just things that you can do in combat, regardless of what weapon it is that you equip with, but you have to learn it from your list of learned powers. Alternatively, you could choose to learn feats. Here's a shitload of feats that you could choose to learn. Most of them you don't need to, but if there's items here that you think are tasty, you don't gain the half ability score progression that a lot of these go with, but you can stack on as many of these feats as you know powers if you choose. And some of the subclasses that are here in the game offer feats as bonus abilities, such as the Path of the Beast gains Savage Attack, or that 3rd level is a free feat instead of learning a particular power. So feats, combat masteries, and also weapon damage types allow you to learn how to use a different type of damage. This is allowing you to have a lot of access to magical damage without having to have magic weapons necessarily. So at 1st level, you could be using acid damage. This is going to give the DM a lot of flexibility in creating creatures that have various immunities or resistances, because your characters can just stack up on different combat options to be able to shuffle in between to gain advantages, or exploit weaknesses, or to avoid resistances and immunities that enemies that they face may have. And of course, creatures can also pick up options that allow them to become immune or resistant to different damage types along the way as well, to increase their, like as a solo boss, they might be immune to all sorts of damage except for, like, say, necrotic and psychic damage. Then your characters want to kit into psychic and necrotic damage for that encounter so that they can deal with that threat efficiently. And then when they take a short rest, they can swap out and start adding in different types of damage back into their character kit as they need. So you are allowed to adapt your character on short rests to pick up different powers that you might need depending on what you think is going to be coming up. A very fluid, versatile system of adapting your character to what the team needs to be able to overcome the challenge, so that you become even more adaptable than even, say, a wizard would be, or a bard with their catered lists. You have the ability to cater your own lists as well. So that's a real quick crash course for us to look at. As you can see here, all the class, subclass features, all the class features that are modified. by the power system and all of the subclasses for all the classes from all the books that Wizards has published to date are all inside of these pages that you can use right now to build out creatures from level 1 to 20. Sorry, characters from level 1 to 20. The playtesting that we're going to do for this is going to be using the Ravnica campaign setting in the Rubble Belt region, which is wastelands. Your characters are going to be basically dumped into a wasteland, and the adventure is getting out. Either finding a way to communicate with a rescue mission, or finding a way to rescue yourself, or fuck it, let's just stay in the wilds, let's go native, and start taking this place over and build our own power base independent from the guilds. So it's a Ravnica setting, which means that we're going to default set using the different guilds as your backgrounds as per normal Ravnica rules, but Ravnica grants a slew of spells, and these martial characters don't have access to spell casting. A ranger or a paladin, a warlock, or an artificer that does have spell casting can choose to either mix in the spells or the powers that are being granted by the backgrounds, but not both. So you take your pick on which ones you want to pick up. So we're offering alternate lists for folks to learn. Let's kick down here to the base. Beep, 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 beep. There we go. Damage types. Here's the guilds, the colors that they're aligned to, the basic types of damage that are associated with each guild's colors, and the advanced damage types that we saw up here in the proficiency section. These are the different types of energies that your character can opt into. Ravnica Guilds, Theros Gods, Strixhaven Colleges, they all work the same. So you can see here we're building out alternate power lists. We're keeping cantrips because they don't cost any mana and they're fun to have. They tie you to your guild at the most basic level by having similar cantrips. Super. But then from level, the upscaling stuff is we're just going to select a slew of powers from the overall power list that we have here in the book already to help express what the classes are. So we're going to pluck this, tie this to that. Golgari, Gruul, we're now down into Izzet. So this is the Gruul clan. Let's go to the Izzet League. Let's scroll down to the Izzet League to see what cool stuff they get. And we'll just keep building from there, and we'll bounce back and forth between our power list, the spells that they have to find which ones are the right ones to swap out, what kind of flavor. I love those steam vents, that's awesome. What flavors to find, and we'll be able to build from there. So they get Produce Flame and Shocking Grasp, which is fire and electricity. That's very appropriate for Izzet. So let's go to here. Let's go to Cantrips, which is going to be Produce Flame. Is that it? Is that what it's called? Produce Flame? Yeah, and Shocking Grasp. There. Okay, so that takes care of that. So what are the first level spells that Izzet would normally get? It's Chaos Bolt, it's Create or Destroy Water, and Unseen Servant. Destroy, create water, that's a blue energy. Unseen Servant, also a blue energy, and Chaos Bolt is a red energy. So let's just go hunting for powers that would make sense for first level Izzet given their blue-red motif. Let's see. Chaos Bolt. How about it's Izzet. They're toolsmiths. So let's go with let's see. There is a tool mastery in here. Let's find it. Swift Tools. If using a tool that you can hold in one hand would normally require an action, you can instead use the tool as an object interaction. That would cost you a point of mana to use that. Let's see. There's Adept Craftsman. When making an ability check that can use tools you're proficient with, roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to your result. So if you were to spend 3 mana at 9th level and you're throwing D8s as your power dice, The way that this stays within the bounded accuracy curve is that 3 mana is 3 dice. Take the best result of those dice. So you may feel it's sufficient to get at best a +1 for a point of mana. So you'd only spend 1. By the time you're getting up to 3 mana, you're more than likely going to be rolling on a D8. You're probably going to be rolling a 5, 6, 7, or 8. You're most likely going to be rolling above average because you have 3 dice. Statistically speaking, it's going to be a 5 or more. So if you think it's worth it to spend 3 mana to pop that ability check using your tool, then you would spend 3 mana. Otherwise, you'd probably only want to spend 1 just to get that inspiration die, as it were. And depending on your resources, you could be getting all your mana back on a short rest. In which case, if you're in a social scene and all you have to do is spend your mana on social stuff and exploration things, you can just throw the mana around to give yourself bonuses on all sorts of ability checks so that you're more than likely going to hit good numbers to help getting information or moving the ball forward in the direction that the team wants to during your exploration and your social encounters. If you're not in combat, you don't need to spend mana on combat stuff. You can kit out, you can swap out your prepared powers every day when you take a long rest, and whenever you take a short rest, you can swap 1. So as you have your adventuring day, if you're going into town, you can take a quick rest at a cafe, grab a drink, take your short rest, get rid of one of your combat options, and swap in an exploit that's going to let you milk your mana into ability check bonuses, for instance. So you have an ad hoc inspiration dice available to your character. That's a good way to go. And I think what is it, gifted art, what is it, adept craftsman. I think that is a really good flavor fit for what that is. So let's go with adept craftsman. Thank you. Adept crafter. Adept. Let's get rid of the word craftsman because that's not PC anymore. Let's go with adept. Adept. What's an alternate word? Let's go with synonym craftsman. Adept crafting. There you go. That'll work. Crafting. Crafted. Craft. Craft. Crafting. There we go. Add it crafting. Exploit 1. Let's go hunting for feats real quick. There might be a tasty feat that we can pick up for free usage. Let's see. Keen Mind isn't horrible. Let's see. Chef isn't horrible. Alert, no. Let's look up Keen Mind again, because I keep forgetting what that means. Because, you know, Fire Mind is everything. Which is Niv Mizzet, the Fire Mind, who's the leader of the Izzet League. We ignore the intelligence gain because it's a free feat. Knows ways north. There are hours left in the day, and recall anything you see. Yeah, okay. Keen Mind is actually pretty good. So you get that feat at first level. If you take the Izzet League background, you get 2 cantrips, you get Adept Crafting, and you get Keen Mind. Izzet Guild bonus powers. Ping. Okay, so level 2. What you get at level 2, buddies? Or what's your second level spells? Heat Metal and Rope Trick. Those are cool. Heat Metal, Rope Trick. Actually, that reminds me. I think I needed to go up here and look at maneuvers real quick. And I think I needed to switch. There's a level gaining maneuver. Or there's a healing maneuver, but we need to make it a higher level. Healing Radiance. You can heal one creature you touch with a number of hit points equal to the result of 1 power die per mana burn. At first level, that is that cannot be used at first level because there are classes that can cheat in free 1 mana exploits, 1 metal mana maneuvers. They can cheat in. So HI. So we have to remove that option at first rank. So it's always going to cost you at least some mana to trigger the effect. So Healing Radiance at second level makes more sense. Here, let me go show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Empowered maneuvers. Okay, a barbarian. Almost all martial characters can do this. It's almost as basic. Like empowered strikes and empowered maneuvers is as basic to martial power characters as extra attack is at 5th level. So empowered maneuvers beginning at 1st level. When you take the attack action, you can forego any number of attacks to reduce the cost of channeling a maneuver as a bonus action by 1 mana for each attack sacrificed this way to a minimum of 0 cost. For example, if a 5th level barbarian takes the attack action, you can choose to forego both attacks, reducing the cost of a maneuver you channel as a bonus action by 2 mana. Powers and class features that increase the number of attacks you can make during the attack action can be sacrificed this way as well. For example, a 13th level barbarian sustaining frenzied attacks makes 3 attacks as an attack action. If you sacrifice all 3 attacks, you can reduce the cost of channeling a maneuver as a bonus action to 0. So this effectively gives you infinite mana at the cost of all of your attack actions and your bonus action. And at 5th level, you can do this with 2nd rank maneuvers. If you were allowed to do this at 1st level and one of the powers that you would gain would be Healing Radiance, then your character would be able to effectively spam healing infinitely at 1st level. And that is going to be a little too efficient in use of power. So we're going to bump it to 2nd level. So even though at 5th level, your character is still going to be able to zero it out, you have to use your attack actions and you have to use your bonus actions to do this. In combat, you normally don't have attack actions and bonus actions outside of initiative. So you kind of put a limitation on how much you can do this by, are you in combat or are you not in combat? And that is up to the DM to determine if you're going to have free mana to expend that way or not, whether you're actually engaged in combat, rolling initiative, etc. or not. If you're out of initiative, stuff's going to cost you mana. If you're in combat, then you can cheat down your action economy to get free powers. Let's see. So we are looking at Heat Metal and Rope Tricks. So Heat Metal. Let's see. We can go up to 2nd rank powers. So let's see what's out there that we think is cool. Code, Rally. Restraining Hold, Swift Attunement, Swift Resuscitation, Vanish. Swift Attunement's not bad. You attune to a magic item you're holding. That feels pretty Izzet, honestly. Glyph of Warding, that'd be good at... What was that? Swift attunement? That would be good. Here. Wait, Swift is 1. Nice. You attune to a magic item you're holding. There you go. It'll cost you an action to do it while you're holding it. Let's work out that language. Let's see. You attune to a magic item. Period. There. That feels appropriate. Let's see. Ooh, I need to go down and look at the strikes. Look at lifelink. I'm going to want lifelink to be first rank power. Lifesteal. There it is. Because we got rid of healing at first level, there needs to be a way for creatures to, for characters to buffer themselves during combat. So life-stealing strike is good. This creates temporary hit points. So your weapon deals 1. Your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana burned. In addition, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the result of the power die roll. Any temporary hit points that remain when you start a short or long rest are lost. There you go. Okay, let's see. Looking for what? Chaos Bolt and no, Heat Metal and Rope Trick. So let's see. Let's see what we can find maybe down in the sustained powers. Ooh, Inspired Skill. While sustaining this power, you gain proficiency in a skill or tool of your choice. You can channel this power more than once simultaneously, choosing a different skill or tool with each channeling. That's actually pretty good. Inspired Skill. Let's take that. So this is basically while you maintain concentration on this 1 mana effect, you have skill in that proficiency. So let's see. Is there anything else up in this direction that we like? Trap Springer isn't bad. While this power is sustained, gain advantage on intelligence, investigation, wisdom, perception checks to notice traps. You automatically understand the general nature of any trap revealed this way, and you gain advantage on intelligence and dexterity checks using tools you're proficient with to disarm traps. I like that. Trap Springer sounds really freaking cool. Let's make it 3rd rank. Auto attunement is pretty freaking pimp too. Let's go with that. That's pretty good for sus. Let's go to strikes. Shocking Strike is pretty good. Shocking Strike. Your weapon can deal lightning damage and add 1 power die per mana burned. The creature cannot take opportunity attacks until the end of its next turn. Another note, another general feature is empowered strikes. Empowered attacks, thank you. Starts at 5th level, beginning at 5th level when you take the attack action. So strike powers work like 2014 smites. You hit, you spend the mana, you deal the extra damage, trigger effect. The way that this works is, so you have to hit to be able to trigger the effect. So the way that this works is when you take the attack action at 5th level when you gain extra attack. When you take the attack action and you hit with the first attack, you can forego your second attack to reduce the cost of channeling a strike by 1 mana to a minimum of 0. For example, a 9th level barbarian channeling a strike with your first hit, you can channel a 3rd rank strike by foregoing your 2nd rank attack, reducing the cost from 3 mana to 2. Because at 9th level, you can channel up to 3 mana, dealing D8 per mana spent or burned to channel a strike power. At 5th level, if you hit with your first attack, you've got another attack coming. You could forego that second attack to reduce the cost of that 3 mana down to 2. If the attack that you're using only requires 1 mana by foregoing your second attack, like Thundering Strike, it's only a 1st rank strike. Shocking Strike, deal electricity damage and add a 1 power die of damage burned, right? So you can reduce the amount of the mana is reduced by 1, but you still get the power die of damage because you sacrifice an attack for a free point of mana. Essentially is what it's doing. So you could reduce Thundering Strike to 0 cost by giving up an attack. So at 1st level, this would be 5th level. So at 5th level, you could have 1 attack per round and always deal a strike power as part of that first attack if you hit. So you can make multiple strikes per round by spending mana on each of them. So if you miss your first attack and you hit with the second attack, you could then make the decision to sacrifice a point of mana to then be able to add on a strike power if you so chose, or just go with a regular strike and maybe next round you'll hit on the first attack. Or you could decide that you want to spend a point of mana on your first attack to re-roll, allowing you to hit, then get the free point of mana by sacrificing the second attack. You're still spending a point of mana to do it, but the net result is that you hit with your first attack, you get the free smite, and you're helping guarantee that you're getting your damage in. There may be a circumstance where like you need to knock out somebody's ability to make opportunity attacks, for instance. Let's see what else we got going here. So we got all that resolved at the 4th level. Starting here, we're looking at Conjure Minor Elemental, Divination, and Resilient Sphere. So we're going to give Bubble these are reactions. Let's go down to maneuvers. Telekinetic Bubble. Choose a creature up to large size within 30 feet. It becomes trapped within a resilient sphere as per the spell. The creature can dex save to end the effect at the end of each of its turns. You can spend 5 mana to target a huge-sized creature. Is that maneuver 4? Yeah, sure is. What's another cool thing they got going on? Let's see. Elemental, Divination, Odaluk. We got Odaluk taken care of. So now we have Divination and Elemental. Well, we don't have any Conjure creatures off the cuff. We don't have any reactions built in yet. So let's see if there's any cool reactions we want to pick up. Lightning Reflexes. As a reaction to failing a dexterity or intelligence saving throw, re-roll the d20 and take the better result. Potentially changing the failed roll into a successful one. That's a 1 mana. That's a 1 mana reaction. Opt. As a reaction to failing an ability check, you can re-roll the d20, potentially resulting in the check succeeding. Opt isn't bad. Let's just go with Opt. Thank you, Timely Timer. How are we doing on time here? We've been at this for 40 minutes. It's 12:20 here in Seattle. We got a lot of time left. Opt, reaction 1. Love that. Let's see. Let's check out what they got at the high end. Animate object, conjure elemental. Conjure minor elemental. Sure, whatever. A lot of variety you got going on there, buddy. What do we got so far? Exploits, feats, sustain, strikes, maneuvers, reactions. We got a lot of them. Let's see if there's an exploit that comes to animate object or elemental. Let's see if there's any exploits that exist that would be fun to use. Oh, Empowered Synergy. When you channel a maneuver, you can make a weapon attack as part of the bonus action. This attack can be made at the beginning, end, or during the empowered maneuver. That's not bad. Empowered Strike, Empowered Synergy. It's an exploit, so you just tack it on to whatever it is that you're doing. I like it. Okay, let's do that. Empowered Synergy. Okay, Empowered Synergy is a fun thing. We looked at already up here under the empowered maneuvers. If you spend both, if you sacrifice both of your attacks and use your bonus action to trigger a maneuver, you can gain a maneuver for free up to second rank. So let's look at some second rank maneuvers. This power is when you channel a maneuver, you can make a weapon attack as part of that bonus action. So we're getting a free second rank maneuver that we can then make an attack with by spending 2 more mana. So the maneuver is dropped to 0 cost. Let's go find some fun maneuvers. Like double strike. Make 2 weapon attacks with advantage. You can draw a weapon as part of each attack. So double strike is a 2 mana maneuver. You could sacrifice both of your attacks and then use your bonus action to trigger double strike, which would then give you 2 weapon attacks, but now they're with advantage. And then on top, this would be for free because you sacrifice both of your attack actions. So now you're making 2 attacks anyway, and they're with advantage. And by actually, since it's free, if you actually spent 2 points of mana on top of it for Empowered Synergy, you would also then, with your bonus attack, be able to make a 3rd attack for 2 mana. Worth noting, one of the feats that's available for you to learn or to pick up as an actual feat on your whatever levels is Efficient Power. Efficient Power allows you to reduce the cost and effective rank of a power by 1. So if you wanted to use empowered, what's the thing called? Empowered Synergy. If you learned Efficient Power, you could drop the cost of Empowered Synergy down to only 1 mana. So you can sacrifice both attacks, use your bonus action, get 2 attacks off of double strike, and then spend 1 point of mana by having an efficient use of Empowered Synergy to then get a 3rd attack. Lots of fun ways for you to add and mix your action economy and spending your mana. So action economy is worth mana. Mana is worth action economy. And in some cases, some classes, hit dice equal mana as well. So you have a floating variable pool of different resources that can be blended together and cheated in so that you can have more effects per per rest cycle or per long rest per day than your character would normally have by exploiting your own systems. It requires a little bit of system mastery, but if you don't want that level of depth and you don't want the headache of doing all of that crunching, you could just learn a shitload of feats for free and not worry about your mana pool at all. Or you could just learn some sustained powers and lock them on so that so you don't have to maintain concentration anymore, but you can't use any mana while they're locked. So you can build into as simple or complicated use of mana as you want. There you go. But that finishes off Izzet, so let's get into Orzhov. Copy. Paste. I bet they get Spare the Dying. Am I wrong? And when we do the playtesting, your character chooses one of these backgrounds, gains all these different powers at no cost, plus whatever powers you get from your subclass. So like a Boros Path of the Ancestral Guardians, for instance, at 3rd level, when you take this path, you'd gain the Alert feat, you'd gain the Power Shield, Sustained Power, and you would also gain from Boros. You gain Firebolt and Sacred Flame as cantrips, which a barbarian would not be able to cast while you are sustaining this. And then you get Radiant Strike and Dire Impact as well. So you get those four powers at no cost. Plus, at 3rd level, a barbarian is going to have 4 powers that you can just learn, and you'll have 3 mana per short rest to utilize all these different powers. And again, using empowered maneuvers, feats, and then by the time you get to 5th level, empowered attacks, you can start getting a lot of free mana. So every round you can use a power if you want to, if you're willing to give up action economy to do so. So this allows you to have, like, a lot of people want like infinite usable maneuvers. Other people like a resource system for maneuvers. Why not do both? This allows you to have both of them at the same time, and you can customize your gameplay system to whatever, managing resources or working without resources, up to you. Let's see. So we're going to get into Orzhov. Orzhov starts with Friends and Guidance. Okay. Command, illusory script. Okay. Command and illusory script. Command is the easiest one to work with. Ooh, omnilinguist. When sustaining this power, you can communicate with and be understood by any creature with a spoken language. It's not bad. Which ones do we like? Okay, let's go check out feats real quick. Inspiring leader. No, not specifically. Can't make opportunity attacks until you turn. Vex. Target makes an save or is at disadvantage on next attack roll until the end of their next turn. Vex isn't bad. I like that. mastery, and let's go fetch. What else do we get? Man, an illusory script. Illusory script, illusion stuff. No. Radiant damage, force or radiant, life stealing. You know what? Let's go with life stealing. That's wait a second. Do they get vampiric touch? Nope. So let's give them life stealing strike. This gives you temporary hit points equal to the amount of damage, the amount of power dice damage that you deal. I think that's fucking fantastic. Life stealing strike. That is fantastic for Orzhov. Second rank, same as the first. No. Enthrall, Ray of Enfeeblement, Zone of Truth. I know we have. As reaction to a creature within 30 feet of the creature is resistant. No. Hold on. There's Inquisitive. Incapacitator while grappling. That's a grappling thing. What are my options here? Enthrall, Ray of Enfeeblement, Enfeebling. There's an enfeebling thing that we can do. Where is it? Curse, Muddled Mind. Goad. Double Strike, Distract, Curse Brand. The cursed creature you see can make saving throws against your powers at disadvantage. Ability checks and concentration checks at disadvantage. Attack rolls. Let's go fetch. Inquisitive. When making an ability check that can use the insight, investigation, or perception skill. Yeah, Inquisitive is just amazing. Inquisitive. That's a lot of goodness packed in there. Let's see. I know there's a thing. It's probably a maneuver. Beguiling Trance, Brand, Coordinated, Cursing Eyeless. Muddled Mind. Platinum, Gold, Rally, Restrain, Swift, Resuscitation. Banish, Curse, Brand. Distract. Oh, Lethargy. Target creature you can see within 30 feet makes a charisma saving throw. Fail equals no move or bonus action. There we go. Lethargy. That's a really great one. Maneuver 2. When you channel this maneuver, you can spend a number of hit dice. Up to your proficiency modifier to gain a number of hit points equal to the maximum result of the dice spent. Right, good. Let's see. What you got? Bestow Curse, Speak with Dead, Spirit Guardians. Those are all on point with flavor. Bestow curse. So curse of the something. Bestow curse is disadvantages on stuff. Curse of exposure. They're resistant, they're not. Curse of enfeeblement. We're bestowing some sort of curse. It's a matter of what kind. See, deal half damage with attacks until the target. That's not bad. It's really good. And Spirit Guardians, that's an area of effect sort of thing. I know we have some AoE stuff down in the sustained power, so let's go fetch and see. While this power is sustained and you are not restrained, stunned, or paralyzed, or incapacitated, any creature that you can see that begins its turn or moves within reach of your attack takes 1 power die of damage per mana sustained. That's really fucking good. Deadly Presence. Number 4. Blight, Death Ward, Lehman's Secret Chest. Blight, Death Ward, Blight, Death Ward. What does Blight do? Have as much and successful. This spell has no effect. If the target is a plant creature, non-magical, it wilts. Okay. What was it? Blight or Death Ward? Death Ward is easy enough. I think we have a reaction. Yeah, Rite of Revival. As a reaction to when you drop to 0 hit points but don't die outright, you remain conscious and roll a number of power dice equal to the mana burned, gaining that many hit points instead up to your maximum hit point total. So, Rite of Revival. That's really good for Orzhov. Let's put it at 5. What was the other thing? Yes. Blight, Death Ward, Lehman's. Death Ward, Blight. Blight was the next thing we were messing around with. Blight deals damage on touch. That feels... Shunt lips. Hey, what's going on? Hold on. Let me make sure my screen's doing what it's supposed to do. Bill's mom. Hey, Bill's mom. We are working on the martial power system. It's an alternate spellcasting mana expenditure resource for martial characters. This is the list of 151 mana dependent powers that you can use, divided into 5 disciplines of exploits that modify dice, maneuvers, which are basically point and click psionic or magic effects, reactions, which are on trigger effects that you can do in response to somebody, such as opportunity attacks, etc. Strike powers, which are like modified divine smite spells and divine strikes for 5th edition. And then there's sustained powers, which are like concentration or lock on or effects. If you're a 5e enthusiast, some of this stuff will probably make sense. If you don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing games, then it's just a bunch of text. We're making a game. We're making a game. Let's see. The Orzhov Syndicate. So we're modifying in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. The Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica is a Magic the Gathering setting. 5 DMsGuild Ravnica Guild are my gem. Okay, great. So we're taking all of the spells that you would gain right now as an Orzhov character. Instead, we're switching out the spell since martial characters don't get spells. They have They have powers that they learn. I don't know if you know anything about my work, but here I'll show you real quick. The the color mana spell point variant rule books that we have on the DMs Guild here. This is pay what you want here. It's free to grab if you want it. But this has basically how you convert spellcasting in Dungeons and Dragons to the color mana system. So here's the basic principles or aspects. Here's the 5 colors. Here's some of the rough descriptors that kind of describe why a spell or an effect would be a certain color. Here's the damage types that we have broken down per color. These types are colorless, like bludgeoning, stuff like that. But then we have all the spells broken down into the color combinations. You spend 1 point of mana for each spell level that you cast. Cantrips cost 0. So, like, for example, Animal Friendship is a red or green effect. Choose 1 point of mana, either red or green, and you can cast Animal Friendship. Burning Hands, that's going to be a red spell. Spend a point of red mana, and you can cast Burning Hands. If you go back and look at the beginning of the stream, we were going into the core mechanics book here that you can check out. And it has the alternate mana system that we use. Scroll down here. Full casters end up with 80, half casters end up with 40, and then tricksters, knights and tricksters end up with 20. It's 1 point per level of spell, so a 17th level paladin could spend 5 points of mana to cast a 5th level spell, for instance. But since barbarians can't cast spells, since barbarians, fighters, monks, and rogues, since they don't have spell casting, we created an alternate magic system called Powers that's akin to the Book of Nine Swords from 3rd edition or the Martial Power books 1, 2, and 3 from 4th edition to create magic-like effects that trigger as instantaneous and enchantment aura effects using MTG language to modify what your character is capable of doing by either modifying die rolls that you're making, like ability checks, attack rolls, damage rolls, saving throws. You can modify them with your power dice by the amount of mana that you spend. You can spend a number of mana equal to the maximum rank of power that you can gain, and the power die that you can roll to do so increases with the die. So if I were to spend 3 mana to trigger, say, what strike are we looking at here? Goading Strike. Your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana burned. The creature you strike has disadvantage on any attack made that doesn't target you. This effect ends if the target hits you. It can also attempt to end this effect at the end of each of its turns by succeeding an intelligence saving throw. This is a first rank power, so it only costs me 1 mana. At first level, I'd throw a d6 to add it onto the damage, and then the triggering effect automatically takes hold. So we're building out. We have about 200 some odd. No. Yeah, we have about 210 powers in total. 150 of them require mana. The other 50 don't. They're free, like cantrips and stuff to use. So you can mix and match. You get a slew of free powers depending on what subclass you choose. And right now we're building out all of the Ravnica backgrounds. So like a paladin, an Orzhov paladin could choose the spells that you get off of the Orzhov list, or you could choose the powers that we're giving you here. Your choice. Pick whichever one you want. We're going to be doing a playtest for this in the Ravnica campaign setting starting at 3rd level. And for folks that are interested in that, Warlock is one of the options that we have. And one of the books on the DMs Guild is Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica, which converts all 10 guilds into a Warlock, otherworldly patron. So, like Cult of Rakdos here. Here's the spells that you get for being a Rakdos Warlock, and here are the different subclass options that you get for choosing that. And of course, we got Massacre Girl as our mascot. So if you were to pick this, you would be able to grab the spells from Cult of Rakdos because you are a Warlock. You'd gain these powers as you gain levels, and Warlock can trade invocations for powers. So then a Warlock, again, referencing the documents that we have here, we can go to, where is it? There we go. Spell point Warlocks. This uses the same. This is pay what you want. If you you don't want to pay to check it out, you can buy it later after you realize how cool it is. If you want to help me make more books in the future, but this offers a spell point system using the DMG spell point system. But fuck that, you want to use color mana instead. So we can go down to here's a Reckoner. Multi-class spell points, universal spell points, and high magic. So here's the mana system that you get for Pact Magic. It's a short rest, 1 to 20, and then you have Mystic Arcanum points that you gain on a long rest. But you could, instead of casting your 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells, you could instead spend all of this day mana on your Pact Magic instead. So if you burn down all of your long rest spell points, you won't have any left over to cast Mystic Arcanum, but you could do a shitload of Pact Magic. And again, you could use your invocations to instead learn powers that we have listed in this book. This will all be on the DMs Guild, and it will also be as readily read in the preview as everything else that I do. So, yeah. You can actually check out this document right now. It's available as a read-only document. If you go into my Patreon, you do not need to be a patron to access this information, but you can scroll down to the article about playtesting martial powers. You click on martial powers, and it opens up the same document that we're using right now, but you will have read-only access while I have editing access. Once the book is published, it'll be up on DMs Guild like everything else that I do, and you can have all 13 classes using the same color mana system. So, hey, what's up? Yeah. Well, because we're looking at like what we're taking spells out of MTG. And we're looking at different effects. We see a lot of thunder stuff for blue and green, and also for red. All three of those colors make sense. It also coincidentally has, and again, it's a pay what you want document, so you can just go grab it. But yeah, each color has 4 damage types specifically to it, but damage types have variables. Like necromancy is black is obvious, radiant as white is obvious. Psychic as white, blue, and black is also pretty apparent when you look through all the mechanics. Force effects with the release of the Adventures in Forgotten Realms set, that's pretty well defined for us that white is force, even though we already knew that blue and red pretty much are as well. Cold as white and green makes sense, but blue, we also see a lot of cold, wintry stuff in blue. Acid is black and green. That also makes, these all make sense if you look at the cards. Most of this stuff is self-informing, so it's pretty easy to suss that stuff out. But yeah, you can grab this. It's pay what you want. So right now we're just trying to, like I said, flesh out what powers we would get for Orzhov. Since most of the spells don't have a 1-to-1 conversion, we're looking for things that feel Orzhov-y throughout the 200 some odd powers that we have in the book already. So, and we're at the high-end tier here. Blight, Death Ward. We already had Death Ward taken care of with Rite of Revival. Blight is a direct necromancy damage. Lehman's Secret Chest. Well, it's like a vanishy. That's a force effect. Like a teleporty sort of thing. So I bet we could do something like Vanish. I bet that would work. Phase, because of ghosts. Ghost Strider. Like literally the Ghost Strider power. That makes a lot of sense. Hold on, let me go fetch it. Ghost Strider, I think, is the sustained effect. So it's something you can concentrate on and just sustain. So, where is it? I think it's 3rd rank. Ghost Walker, there you go. While sustaining this power as a bonus action, including this round, if the power is channeled using a bonus action, you can become incorporeal. Any round you end within an object, you gain 1 level of exhaustion, and you're ejected from the space, returning to the last position you occupied in the nearest location to that space. So, Ghost Walker. That makes a lot of sense. And it's a sustained power, so it's sus, and then 3 for 3rd level. Fear effects kind of makes sense for ye old Orzhov as well. We have some different scary effects going on inside here. Fickle Fate might not be bad. As a reaction to when a creature you can see makes an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, you can alter fate, granting the creature advantage or disadvantage on the roll. I kind of like Fickle Fate. It's a second rank reaction, yeah. So it costs 2 mana to pop it. And then, where was it? Maneuvers. Where is it? Wave of Terror? There it is, Wave of Terror. You can choose any number of creatures within 30 feet of you to make a Wisdom saving throw. Each creature that fails is frightened of you. The effect ends for a creature when it succeeds a Wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns or loses line of sight with you. Wave of Terror. Maneuver 3. Text. I know, right? I know! There's so much stuff that just naturally aligns between MTG and D&D, and as far as I can tell, Wizards hasn't really dived into the mechanics of it because it's complicated. They have a mandate to make 5e as dummy simple as possible, to be as inviting to people that, I guess, have average intelligence, that don't like to read, think, or have to worry about stuff, to make the game accessible to them, even though role-playing is kind of a thinking, cerebral activity. I am personally from the old school 80s and 90s gaming where having the option for increased mechanical complexity appeals to a very broad audience that likes to optimize. You can do away with optimization altogether if you were to choose by just picking fates, combat masteries, and damage types instead of mana-triggered abilities. You could have a mana-less character using all these powers by picking up a shitload of feats for free and just locking all your mana with enchantment auras so that you juice up your character, but don't actually have to worry about spending mana at all. So you can make it as simple as you want or as complicated as you want using all the trigger exploits, optimization, and synergy systems that are built inside the system for as complex as you want it to get, or keeping it incredibly simple. Up to you. And there's no wrong way to play because it all has its own advantages and exploits and balances. So it's worked really well from level 12 to 20. I've been playtesting at my home table in 3rd and 4th tier of play for the past 9 months. But now that it's all fleshed out, I want to go and just do random Westmarch style, Rubble Belt, Ravnica, Hexcrawl type games from 3rd to 7th level, just to make sure that it feels fun and feels good at the low tier. It's great at high levels, but you have a shitload of resources and a lot of powers at high levels. At low levels with limited options and limited resources, I want to make sure it still feels fun to use. So we're going to do some playtesting there. So that may be really cool to try to adopt to the system would be enchantment sagas. Every turn they power up and cause a new effect, and then 3 or 4 turns later they go away. That is something that we can explore. Once I rebuild the core mechanics book to incorporate the Theros gods, we will have creature enchantments that you can basically summon a god power, and the more mana you pour into them, the bigger they get, the more damage they can deal on the battlefield. So sagas is something we could put in place. I think sagas would be more of a regional condition. Instead of it being like something that you would affect a character with, it would be something you would affect an environment or a domain with. Like if you're using the Bastion system, you could tack on sagas onto your Bastion. Or like during the playtesting, if you catch my Saturday streams where I do development for the Martial Power playtesting, we're making a hex crawl where all the land tiles are different color lands, and depending on where, like if your character's colors align with the land that you're in, you get mana perks and you get extra bonuses. Like if you're Rakdos red black and you're in either a mountain or a swamp tile, you'll gain advantages with your mana that, like, say a Selesnya character wouldn't get. But then if you move into a plains area of the Rubble Belt, then that white mana energy, your Selesnya and your Orzhov character would be able to do things with white mana. And so when you take a long or a short rest, you choose how much mana you want to be either color. You have 2 colors in your guild, and when you pick all of your abilities, there's 5 disciplines. There's exploits to modify die rolls. There's maneuvers that are like spell-like effects, point and click, and make a saving throw, get fucked. Reactions, which sound like strikes, which are like modified divine smite powers, and then sustained, which are like the enchantment auras. Enchantment auras can use either color mana, and of the four remaining disciplines, choose 2 of them to be one color and the other 2 to be the other. So like if you're playing a Rakdos character, black-red, you could choose, say, reactions and exploits to be red, while maneuvers and strikes are black. And you could just choose not to know any exploits. So the only thing you would have to spend your red mana on would be reactions. And then you could dump most of your mana into black, so you can do more strikes and you can do more maneuvers. And every time you take a short rest, you gain a lot of, like the barbarian, the fighter, the rogue, and the warlock get all of their mana back on a short rest. But regardless, any character, spellcaster, wizard, whoever, whenever you take a short rest, however much mana you have at the end of the short rest, you can refigure how much of it is in each color. So you can devote your mana to whatever color you want every time you take a short or a long rest. So you can build out your kit to be whatever you want it to be, to curve into the powers that you know. When you take a long rest, you can prepare a whole new set of powers. When you take a short rest, you can change one power you know. So if you're in a dungeon environment, you're doing combat stuff, and then you get out of the dungeon, go back to town, you take your short rest at the coffee shop, you can get rid of your strike power because you're not going to be fighting right now. You can instead, at the end of your coffee break, pick up an exploit, so you'll have advantage on, say, negotiation checks. So you'll be able to like roll a die to add to your negotiation roll, for instance. So these are different things that you can do. So let's go ahead and keep moving here. I'm going to do one more guild today, and then we'll come back and we'll do, what do we have left? Rakdos is next. So I think we'll do Rakdos today. I think I have the strength to get through Rakdos today. And then tomorrow lunch, we'll come back, we'll do Selesnya and Cynic. And then that'll cap off the guilds. We'll eventually do this for the colleges of Strixhaven as well. And I'll need to refresh myself on how Theros works, but we'll do the same for Theros if it's possible. Hold on. Coffee break. We do have something similar to that. We have giant growth, we have lycanthropy, we have aquatic adaptation, we have blind sense, we have tremor sense, mind sense, slow fall, glide. There's a shitload of powers. Like basically, the Simic hybrid gets a bunch of little class like racial perks. We stole a bunch of those and made those sustained effects that you could just enchant your character with. But once we get this thing built, we can start building out racial features like races of Ravnica, and then we can have a kit of like 10, 15 unique powers to the Simic hybrid, 10 or 15 unique powers to the Loxodon, or the Vidalkin, or whatever. Goblins, for instance, we can build out kits for each of the creatures of the classes you can be. So instead of learning one of the powers that you would gain at your different levels when you're gaining powers here, the known powers could be either for your classes or they could be racial specific powers that you learn. Or you could exchange feats at like level 4, 8, 12, 16, 19. You could exchange feats for additional racial powers that you could pick up. But since every character, all 13 classes, have a mana resource that they would have built into their chassis, you can do things like racial powers or racial exploits, so that you can have the race become more of like, I'm Simic hybrid, so I'm going to be I can adapt on the fly, like a 4 mana sustained power. Like the Simic hybrid becomes an ooze, for instance, and while you're that, you have like you can't be crit. You can crawl through spaces that are only 1 inch in size. You can split yourself into multiple pieces and have multiple attacks as separate objects that you can then recombine together, stuff like that. So, but that's like another book beyond this one. And like we could do the Book of Boros, right? The Boros Legion book. So I could have 20 different, I could like grab 30 or 40 Magic the Gathering cards that are Boros themed, and then extract from those new powers and aura effects that we could then make a little Book of Boros. Or we could do like Spy vs. Spy, like Rakdos vs. Boros. So red would be the uniting color, so all the powers that were in that book would be red focused. And then it would either have a white or a black bend to it, depending on which side of the equation you're on. Or like Mind Space would be MIND, Mind Space, or like Mindscape would be like Azorius versus Dimir, where blue is the common denominator, and it's Azorius white control versus Dimir black subterfuge and undermining. So we can have cool little counter kits like that, like Selesnya versus Cynic versus Gruul, like little triads that you can have these different competing colors that revolve around the same core color, but each of the guilds bends that color in a different direction. So we can build mechanics that curve into those differences, so you can express your character in different ways. For instance, there's a shitload of stuff you can do with this stuff, like Kaldheim or Kaladesh, Theros, all these things. There's different ways you can play with mana to express those settings in different ways. But on the DM's Guild, I'm only allowed Ravnica, Theros, and Strixhaven for now. If I wanted to break off and do Kaladesh stuff, I could just start doing that on my Patreon instead. Just post articles about, hey, here's a book of Kaladesh artificers you can use. Here's a number of color arrays that you can assign to different archetypes, and then go play with it. So that's the idea behind it. It's infinite spammable space of color mana content that can be converted into 5e. And the playtest campaign that I'm building is a means of basically building a hex crawl campaign out of color land, dictating what kind of aura effects, sagas, and different creature types and traps that you'll be facing based on the color of the land that you're traversing during that time. And I've been spending sessions basically exploring that idea as well. So, but you can drop into my if you drop into my Discord channel, that's in the description down below. I post stuff. I just launched the Discord on Tuesday, so it's a little thin right now, but we're starting to fill it in with details, and that's going to be our hub for the West March campaign through the Ravnica level, starting at 3rd level. So we'll build we're going to build 10 sample characters as defaults for people to fall back on to swap out if their character gets killed. Like, here, have an Orzhov character, and then go run with that. So we're going to build out a bunch of like full characters ready to go that you can just opt into on the fly if you want to show up. Or if you get into the system and dive into it, build your own character to see how you can build and test the system and see what you can do to exploit and try to break it. Thanks. I do deep mechanical systems. It's what I do. There you go. So like, you check out my Spelljammer stuff in the mornings when I do artwork. I've got a number of videos I've been posting over the past few Sundays about wild space combat and scaling ship systems and stuff. I'd say the one thing I do really, really well as a designer is build subsystems and resource systems, and build ludonarrative spaces that are complemented by the mechanics that we build. So, but I am on a total tangent. You got me monologuing. So it's time for me to get back to work before I completely burn out of time. It's 1 o'clock now. I have time to finish Rakdos before I gotta bounce, but I absolutely have to be out of here by about 1:45. So I've got 45 minutes to play. So let's see how this shit shakes out. Firebolt, Vicious Mockery. I decided to keep the cantrips in place because it's a way to unify. Since you can take a feat and get cantrips anyway, and basically the way that D&D works now is that when you take a background, you get a free feat out of it anyway. This kind of curves into that space. So having the like Dimir, having the encode thoughts is something that should be a part of Dimir. Vicious Mockery makes a ton of sense for any Rakdos character to have access to, even if they aren't spellcasters themselves. So that's why we're keeping those cantrips in place. But from there, we don't have to be specific about what sort of thing it is that you gain at a particular level. Just whatever feels right for the scaling of power and how we're expressing the characters over time. So a lot of flexibility that's born into the system that we can take advantage of. So, having said that, let's go take a look at what we get. Burning Hands, Dissonant Whispers, Hellish Rebuke. Okay, so right off the cap, I would say beep, 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 beep. Exploits. Let's give them, I think, Burning Strike. Flaming Strike. There you go. Your weapon can deal fire damage and adds 1 power die per mana burned. The creature is caught on fire, taking fire damage equal to the result of the highest power die rolled each turn. The creature can attempt to end this effect at the end of each of its turns by succeeding a dexterity saving throw or spending an action to put out the fire. So Flaming Strike is a pretty obvious go-to. Strike, first rank. And what else did you get? Dissonant Whispers. Whispers a discordant melody that only one creature of your choice within range can hear, racking it with terrible pain. Psychic damage. And wants to move away from you. Hellish Rebuke. Surrounded by Hellish Flames. It takes 2d4 fire damage on a fail save, half as much damage on a successful. You point a finger. And the creature that damaged you is momentarily. Okay, got it. So this is a reaction effect. So Hellish Rebuke is a reaction. So let's go down and look at reactions that might be fun to tack on with first rank. Punish. As a reaction to when an enemy you can see within range of your weapon attack misses an attack roll against you or an ally, you can make an opportunity attack, adding 1 power die to the attack roll. There you go. Punish is a pretty good one. Oh, also, characters that are using the Ravnica system, scrolling down here to the damage types. At first level, you can choose a basic damage type to automatically just have access to whenever you want it, and at 5th level, you have access to another one. And these are normally you can pay a power. Like at first level, you have 2 known powers. If I wanted to, instead of learning any of these things, I could pick up acid and cold damage, for instance, if I wanted to. And so the damage types that are available to you is dependent on the colors that you're aligned with. White, basic, is cold. Advanced is radiant. Blue, cold, and poison, but you could swap those out for lightning instead if you wanted to. So these are the damage types that are related to the basic damage types for colors. This is corresponding to the chart that we have here. Yeah, so you get one of these for free at first, and you get one of these for free at 5th level. They're kind of like replacement cantrips, but I'm giving you the cantrips anyway. But if I didn't give you the cantrips, these would be things that you would get automatically. But you get them automatically anyway. But like it would be appropriate. It's not wrong for, like, say a Boros character that's white-red to take acid if he wanted acid damage, but you would have to, basically that becomes your own character's narrative, like why you would have to you just pick it up and you can just use it because it doesn't cost any mana to use this. It's just a damage type that you tack on. But since acid isn't native to white or red colors, you'd want to have some sort of a narrative reason as to why you're dealing acid damage. Like maybe your radiance eats through things. So even though it looks like sparks of radiant divine energy melting somebody down, it's technically acid damage. For instance, that might be the narrative that you use. But you can learn any of these. It says that you get one for free based on your color, white or red. So a Rakdos, like a Boros character, could take cold, but most likely would take fire or lightning damage at first level. And then the advanced form, you would take either radiant or force damage, both of which are really good options. But you would always be able to do radiant damage or always be able to do force damage. But with the system on the DM side of things, the DM has freedom to swap out and switch up what types of immunities and vulnerabilities a creature has when you're fighting them, because damage is so liquid using the system. So the resistances that a creature has, you can adapt to the narrative of what that creature is expressing using the colors that are like if you're fighting a dog that's wreathed in black flames, it's probably going to be a hellhound. It's probably got Rakdos energy, black, red. Chances are doing things like radiant damage, or like Lightning damage, for instance, might be like, well, lightning might not work well against it, but like radiant damage would make a lot of sense. Would be able to damage that, or like cold damage, white stuff against a Rakdos creature makes a lot of sense. Red wouldn't so much make sense. It'd probably be immune to fire. It'd probably have resistance to necromancy. It'd probably have resistance to force damage, but like radiant, it might be weak against radiant. So if your characters are kitted into radiant damage right now, then when they run across hellhounds, they could be critting automatically or dealing an extra die of damage, for instance. However it is that we decide to calibrate the weaknesses that creatures will have against the damage types that you choose. And since you can swap out powers on the fly during a short rest, if you know you're going to be dealing with hellhounds, maybe you decide just to pick up radiant damage as a power. Maybe you don't need to know how to maybe you don't need dice to throw to improve your investigation skill right now. Like maybe that's not optimal for what you're trying to do, but picking up radiant damage will be really useful. So if you know what you're going to be getting into, you can add in a power that's going to allow you to make that situation easier by using the system that we have in place. So anyway, that's one of the ideas. So we are currently looking at second. Second is Crown of Madness, Enthrall, and Flaming Sphere. Crown of Madness. Wisdom saving throw, become charmed. Okay, so Beguiling Strike, that'll work. Let's go fetch. Oh, yeah, Delusional Strike, second rank. Costs 2 mana to trigger this. Your weapon can deal psychic damage and add 1 power die per mana burned, and the creature is confused. So again, looking at our power progression, you start with a D6, it evolves into a D8, and eventually becomes a D10. So check this shit out. Choose one of the power dice results. You're going to spend at least 2 of them. And let's say your fifth level when you get this, you're going to be rolling a D6. So you're going to roll 2d6 to trigger this. Your weapon deals psychic damage. You're going to roll 2d6 to add on to your damage, and the creature is confused. Choose one of the power die results. Say I roll a 3 and a 6. And compare it to the table below. If I roll a 3, the creature uses all of its movement to run in a random direction. Roll a d8 to choose which way it runs. Or I could choose a 6, which is melee attack against a random creature within reach. Otherwise, it does nothing. So if I used the Delusional Strike and I rolled a 3 and a 6 on my damage dice, I could either make it run off in a random direction, potentially triggering opportunity attacks for leaving space or crossing through other people's spaces, or I could have it choose to attack somebody else other than me. So, and then as I get higher die rolls, I am more and more likely to make the thing do absolutely nothing. So at 9th level, I'll roll a d8. There's a chance, a 1 in 4 chance, that the creature will do nothing, but when I get my d10 die roll at 17th level, a 7, 8, 9, or a 10, I have a 40% chance of the creature doing absolutely nothing. And only basically a 1 in 5, only a 20% chance that it's going to not have any effect on it. But no matter what, I'm dealing extra damage. So it always has a benefit of dealing more damage, plus the kicker effect. So Delusional Strike, I think, makes perfect sense here. Especially for Rakdos. Spectacle, which makes each spell cheaper if an opponent was damaged. Could that be a power? Efficient Power. 5th level channeling class feature. Choose a power you have learned of 2nd rank or higher. Reduces the rank and the amount of mana to channel that power by 1. This doesn't modify any of the kicker costs that a power may have. So if I have a 2nd rank power like Delusional Strike, and I then used Efficient Power to modify it, it only costs me 1 mana, and I only have to throw 1 die, 1 mana. It will only give me 1 result, but I could ramp it up to 5 dice if I wanted to. But Efficient Power is a way for me to buy down the cost of things. There's also, you weren't around for this, but earlier we were looking at class features that we've added on, which is the Empowered Attacks, which is when I make an attack and I hit, I can forgo additional attacks to reduce the cost of a strike power by 1 for each attack that I forego. In the example here, a 9th level barbarian can channel up to 3 mana, a 3rd rank strike, 3 mana. If I hit with my first attack, I can forego my second attack to drop the cost from 3 mana to 2. I could, this way, take a 1st rank strike, and if I forego a second attack, I can drop the cost of that strike to 0. So I can do it infinitely as long as I'm willing to make only 1 attack per round. I can also do that with the empowered maneuvers. So if there's a maneuver, I can sacrifice any number of attacks during my attack action and use my bonus action to trigger a maneuver, and that maneuver will reduce cost by the number of attacks that I forego. So if I drop all my attacks, like if I have 2 attacks and I drop both of them, I can channel 2 mana for free into a maneuver. So there's a lot of, so it's kind of like Spectacle, but it's more universal than that. It's just a universal modifier. Kind of like how all martial characters get extra attack at 5th level. All martial characters get empowered maneuvers at 1st level, and then at 5th level, they all get empowered attacks. So everyone can exploit this stuff to one degree or another. Rangers, when you have a target marked with your Mark of Prey feature, that target can always be hit with a strike power reduced by 1. So you can always drop a 1st rank power to 0 if you're attacking your prey, your marked prey. So that's a huge perk for Rangers. And then like Paladins, whenever they spend mana, they get an extra die for free on top of however much they decide to spend. So it all kind of, there's a lot of different ways that like monks can use a martial arts die instead of their power die. And with 2024 and the elemental keybook that I showed earlier, monks at 17th will use a D12 instead of a D10. So a monk could channel 5 D12 damage into a smite if he wanted to, while a paladin could spend 5 mana to do 5 dice and then gets an extra one for free. So it does 6 D10 damage while a monk does 5 D12. Battle Masters, if you chose the Battle Master subclass for fighter, they use D8, D10, D12 instead of D6, D8, D10. So they're automatically better with their power dice than any other fighter in the game. So there's fun ways to be able to manipulate and play with the mechanics, kind of like how Magic the Gathering, each card lets you kind of cheat the rules a little bit and do something that other characters can't. And you can freely multi-class, so you can borrow into fighter and barbarian and monk and be able to do a bunch of different things that those classes can do at their levels. And then have them all blend together into the channeling up to 5th rank. So, yeah, no, it's great. I love talking about this shit. Rakdos also has Hellbent, which gives buffs when you have no cards in hand. In the equivalent here. Not directly. Cards in 5e generally means either spell selection or mana supply. Like if you get a free card, that would be like you can spend 1 less point of mana when you cast your spell. So I don't have formalized mechanics for that yet, but it is something that I've been thinking about. Like for example, one of the benefits you could gain while a Rakdos character is in a black or a red land in the Rubble Belt campaign, while you're in that area, you could have all mana effects get 1 point for free, for instance. Like if you spent the day to attune to that region of land, while you're in that tile of land, you'd get a free point of mana to do whatever you want with. For instance, that might be a thing you could do. There's a lot of options. Not everything, I don't have an equivalent for everything yet. But the more mechanics that we think about off of the cards, it becomes more and more apparent how you could use 5e and this color mana mechanic to be able to bend and cheat those things in, either as an environment effect, or like if you had like the the consecrate spell that makes like a holy land, like a holy domain. You could potentially use a lot of these specific cheat mechanics, like a black or red, like Eros, like Eros, for example, from Theros is I think is white and red. So like if you were worshiping that god and you consecrated your temple to that, you might be able to you could like have that hellbent sort of effect going with it, where you could have like a mana buff, like a free 1st, 2nd, 3rd rank sustained power that's enchanted on the land. So anybody that's approved would be able to get that benefit for free, for instance. But that'd be a land effect. That'd be more like a boss fight layer action than something that characters would have. So there's DM facing stuff, and there's player stuff, and we need to know which one's more appropriate for the DM to use and abuse or to benefit characters with, depending on what the scenario is, versus things that should be built onto the character for them to be able to exploit. And a lot of these little niche mechanics that exist in the game, I haven't thought about before. So there's options for us to be able to play with them, and over time, when we find the right book to put them into, we can really deep dive into that with like all the colors and all the sort of things. So yeah, that's a good distraction. These are good distractions, my guy. I appreciate you bringing these thoughts to the table because they're fun. So we're looking at Delusional Strike. Let's see. Crown of Madness, Enthrall. Enthrall is a charm effect. I know we have an Enthrall effect somewhere. Hold on. There's a maneuver. And it's low level. These are reactions, maneuvers. You curse a creature, you can see to roll ability checks and concentration checks with disadvantage. The creature can make an intelligence saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect when it succeeds. That's an option. Enthrall. Goad. Enthrall like Goad, that'd be good. Goad, target creature you can see that can see and hear you, makes attacks against creatures other than you with disadvantage until it successfully attacks you, or succeeds a wisdom saving throw at the end of its turns. And that's a 1-mana effect. I like that. I think we want to add that in instead of Enthrall. That feels good. So let's go with Goad. Third is Fear and Haste, right? This should be pretty easy. We have Celerity, which is a sustained effect. It's a not haste effect. Here, Celerity. Bonus action. Celerity and Fear, that's right. We have Fear effects. There's Wave of Terror, but there's also Intimidating Strike. I think I want to go with Intimidating Strike. Now your damage increases by 1 power die per mana burned, and the creature is frightened of you until it loses line of sight with you or you are incapacitated. The creature can attempt to end this effect at the end of each of its turns by succeeding a wisdom saving throw. What is that, strike 3? No, strike 2. Yep. Alright. 4th level. Confusion, Wall of Fire. Well, Confusion, that's Delusional Strike. Did we already pick up Delusional Strike? Wall of Fire as well. Yeah, we already picked up Delusional Strike. And then Wall of Fire. Confusion. Wall of Fire. What do we want to do? Defense barrier. No, that's a. I want to maneuvers. Wave of Terror. We already picked that up for Orzhov, so I don't want to repeat that. We have Intimidating Strike already, right? Right. So much. Distract. Target creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes a charisma saving throw. Fail equals no reactions until it succeeds. Until it succeeds a charisma saving throw at the end of each of its turns. That's distract. That's not bad. Distract is maneuver 2. There's like 300 other maneuvers we could add in here, you know? There's like a shitload of stuff we could just add and keep adding by adding and modifying spells that exist in the game, all 600 of them. So there's a lot we could do beyond this. It's just, I just wanted to go, I'm mostly going with class features and subclass options that already exist in the game, that all we had, like everything from the Blood Hunter, for instance, all the class features, subclass features, rites, and rituals are all inside of here. That's where all like these like Curse of Enfeeblement and like Curse of the Fallen Puppet, Curse of Exposure. That's where a lot of these things are coming from. Is the Blood Hunter. So if you don't like the idea of cutting yourself, if like a Rakdos Blood Hunter makes so much sense, but you could just as easily, instead of using hit dice or hit point damage, you could instead just be using black and red mana to trigger those effects without having to worry about the questionable ethics of encouraging people to cut themselves to gain power, for instance. It's just depending on the flavor of your table. So we're looking at... Remind me again? Confusion, Wall of Fire. Okay, so we want some sort of an AoE damagey sort of thing. So that feels like a sustained power. Let's go fetch one. Castigation. When you challenge this power, choose a creature you can see. You always know which direction it. Nah. Deadly Presence. While this power is sustained and you are not restrained, stunned, paralyzed, or incapacitated, any creature you can see that begins its turn or moves within reach of your melee attack takes 1 power die of damage per mana sustained. I think we picked that up for Orzhov already. So I'm going to try to skip that if I can. Daunting Presence. While sustaining this power, attack rolls against you are made with disadvantage. And when you are the only target of an effect that requires you to make a saving throw, you roll with advantage. That sounds pretty damn good. Daunting Presence. Sus 3, right? Yeah. So much good shit. What do we get at 5th? Dominate Person, sure. Master of Fate. When triggering this power, it's a 4 mana sustained effect. So concentration, or you lock your mana. Roll 3 d20 fate dice. When you later roll a d20 while this power is sustained, you can choose to replace the result of any one of with any one of these fate dice. Each fate die can be used once. While this power is sustained, you can burn 1 point of mana as a bonus action during your turn, ignoring your max channel limit to do so, to roll an additional fate die, replacing any result or regaining an expended fate die. Unused fate dice are lost when the power is dismissed. I like that. Master of Fate, that feels good. Frenzied Attack. While sustaining this power, you gain 1 additional attack when you take the attack action, and you gain advantage on all attack rolls. That's incredibly juicy. Flurry of Attacks is nice. Fuck it. Yeah, let's just give him Frenzied Attack. That feels fun. Rakdos is not ethical. That is true. Frenzied Attacks. I think that feels good. +4. There we go. So that finishes Rakdos for now. These are subject to change. This is just my first take. I'm definitely open to conversation and debate over what different powers might be better to represent each background. For anyone that is interested in engaging in that debate with me, you are invited to join me in my Discord community, which is here. Let's see. But yeah, that's it for now. So that's Rakdos, and we did Orzhov, and we did Azet today. Yesterday we did Gruul and Golgari, and then I think it was Friday last week. I want to say it was Friday. Was it Monday? It was No, it was last week. Last week we did Azorius, Boros, and Dimir. So when we come back tomorrow at lunch, about the same time, we're going to do Selesnya, and then we're going to do Simic. And then we'll have everything that we need to start building sample characters at 3rd level through 7th level for our playtesting. So we'll just roll a d10 to see which one we're going to go with. We'll probably roll a d6 to see what class it is. And then we'll roll a die inside of that set or see if something picks out that feels particularly... Like if we go to Dimir, we'll probably end up going Rogue. You know? And then again, all the Warlocks are going to be using the Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica. Which is stuffed full of fucking cool shit. You want to check out, aside from just the Warlock, the otherworldly patrons themselves, the artwork in here is decent. But beyond that, once you get down to the back end of all of these things, hold on. Pact boons and invocations. We have 5 new pacts for different colors. Pact of the Cauldron to create potions. We have, and then there's 5 invocations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 5 invocations that go with each pact boon, and of course, good illustrations. Pact of the Cloak with its boon invocations. Pact of the Thane with its invocations. These are generally themed around different colors. But there's different ways to spin. Like Lantern could be red, or it could be white, or it could even be black or blue. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could spin why your character would have Pact of the Lantern. But Pact of the Lantern is fucking cool. Let's see. Beacon of the Guild Pact. As a action, you cause the arcane fire in your lantern to emit a rallying beacon. Any creature of your choice that can see your beacon can use its reaction to move up to their speed towards it. You must finish a short or long rest before you can use this invocation again. And when we rebuild this for 2024, we'll probably have things like, or spend a point of mana, and you can refresh this ability. Stuff like that. Yeah, these are fun. I like Pact of the Shield a lot. It creates basically a floating shield that gives you a shield bonus, and then you got like Burning Rebuke, Pact of the Shield feature, 9th level prereq. While your shield is summoned, when you are hit by a melee weapon attack, you can use a reaction to expend a Warlock spell slot and cast the Burning Hands spell once, targeting an area that includes the attacker. Once you use this invocation, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And of course, none of this is assuming color mana. But since then, we had come out with spell point Warlocks, so we can update this to use spell point language, which will be a 2024 task. But there's a bunch of cool shit in here. Aside from that, there's also a bunch of additional invocations, including what I like the most, extra pact boon, which is you can exchange an invocation for an additional pact boon. So you can pick up multiple pacts, like Pact of the Shield and Pact of the Blade, and have them both active at the same time. And then you can use your invocations. Once you have Pact of the Blade, a Warlock can use invocations to pick up any of these powers, but you have to have Pact of the Blade. So you could learn, like, instead of Eldritch Strike, you could choose any of these 24 strike powers, whichever one you want. So there you go. So this is cool. So if when we eventually build a Warlock for the Hexcrawl playtest, these Warlocks specifically will be available as well. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll be back. I'm actually going to be back tonight. We've got our Eberron adventure that we've been building creature tokens for the Everon adventure that we're going to publish on DMsGuild next year. We're going through the art process of creating the creature tokens. We're almost done with the detail work, and we'll go into color here shortly. Probably not today, but soon. So we'll do that tonight in about 6 hours. We'll be back to do that. And then we're going to be back tomorrow morning in about 6 to 5 hours. In about 17 hours, we'll be back to continue the Spelljammer ship illustrations that we've been building for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book, which is here. And as soon as this is done, it will also be on the DMsGuild with link down below. It's not ready yet, but you can see the art production of that every day. So folks are welcome to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to stay updated and notified of what it is that we got going on here on an ongoing basis. Swing by, stick around, check it out. Thanks a lot. And Billy, man, Bill, I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm glad MTG and D&D is cool shit for you because I fucking love it. I think it's awesome. So, yeah. See everybody later. Cheers.